Sega, and more importantly Sonic, is known for having great music within its video games. The music in Sonic games contribute largely towards Sonic and his personality, but with Sonic Unleashed, Sega decided to gather influence from other cultures of music and combine it with musical elements that feel Sonic-y to us. The first of the different cultures I want to talk about is Latin music, showcasing the Apodos Day theme. When we listen to the Apodos theme, we can tell obviously to some extent that it's influenced by Latin music, but what makes it Latin specifically? The obvious reason is the instrumentation or the specific instruments being used. Acoustic guitar, woodblocks, shakers, and claves are all instruments heavily tied to Latin culture when it comes to music. The Baroque guitar, which is a direct predecessor to modern guitars, was developed in Spain. It's so important in Spanish music because at a high level, guitars are extremely versatile in their role in music and can be used in different forms and genres of Latin music. They can be quartal, melodic, and percussive at the same time, making it almost like an all-in-one type of instrument. Using instruments that have a rich history in that culture quickly helps for us to identify it as Latin, but I argue this isn't the main reason for why I argue this sounds so Latin. The most important thing in identifying the Latin style in this song is paying attention to the rhythm of the music. Rhythm in simple terms just means the different subdivisions of the beat, or how the beat is split up or paired into different groups. When talking about Latin rhythm, the concept that stands at the forefront is the clave. A clave is a percussive instrument, but the groove shares the same name because it's always often played on the clave as the instrument. So they also just call it the groove itself that originated from it, clave. The clave groove that's being used in this song is one of the most used claves in Latin music, which is the son clave. That clave has a heavily syncopated side for a bar and then almost a strong on the beat side for the next bar. The syncopated side having 3 beats and the strong on the beat side having 2 beats. This makes a 3-2 son clave. If we switch the bars, it'd be a 2-3 clave instead. While this clave is mostly maintained by the main accents of the groove, there are some also unaccented beats that help to isolate the main clave groove. This helps for different Latin music to stay interesting instead of playing the same clave the same way over and over again. They just use the different parts of the beat that accent the clave and give off a different feeling even though they're accenting the same beats. Even with the rhythms on their own and individually being simple, when you put them together, they lock and form to create energetic movements that are specific to the rich heritage of Latin music. The next song in the Sonic Unleashed soundtrack that I want to talk about comes from the Shamar Day stage. When listening to the music alone without having played the game, I'm sure you could pick up on its Egyptian or Arabic influences. That's mostly because whenever Western composers want to imply an Egyptian or Middle Eastern sound, they tend to switch between the same types of scales, which help imply an exotic sound to our ears. 2 of the most used scales that we switch between are the double harmonic minor scale and the Phrygian dominant scale. These scales can be found over different types of films or video games every time the scene wants to imply the Middle East or Egypt. The main reasons that these sounds fit that box so well to us is because of the unique augmented second interval that we hear that both scales share. With the Phrygian dominant scale, which is the scale being used in this song specifically, the augmented second interval is between the second note of the scale and the third note of the scale. The augmented second itself isn't an interval that's used especially in a whole bunch of a Western context, and so it sounds very foreign and exotic to our ears when played in this scale type of context. Combined with this unusual interval, the tendency to hear this sound in Middle Eastern context is really the main reason for why we hear it as Middle Eastern. So it's almost kind of like a societal music conditioning. There's a little bit of a split between people on whether these sounds are actually authentic or whether they're just Western cliches made from, caricatures of traditional Egyptian or Arabic music. My stance on this matter is that they're a combination of both, and my reason being is that, we can hear and find these scales referred to as different melodic modes in Middle Eastern music called a maqam hijab. So it isn't, just a baseless accusation or a baseless stereotype. But one of the big reasons why it can't be truly authentic is that the tuning system that we used in, Western music and Middle Eastern music is pretty different. In Western countries, the standard tuning system we have is a 12-tone equal temperament system. And that splits, between the octave, we have 12 notes. And each of them are like a half step apart. In Arabic and Middle Eastern music, they have a 24-note equal temperament system, which means they split, everything between 24 notes in an octave, with the distance being a quarter tone, which is 50 cents, instead of Western society's half step, which is, 100 cents. Because of the difference in the tuning systems, there's no real way for us to use the exact authentic sounds of Middle Eastern music in a Western context on Western instruments. It also might throw off the audience, where listening to a different tuning system might throw off their ears in a bad way, since it can be perceived as being out of tune to the ears of, people who aren't adjusted to a 24-note equal temperament system. The final song that I want to talk about when it comes to Sonic Unleashed is the Dragon Road Night Stage. I've spent a lot of time talking about Eastern music and culture in some of my other videos, so I won't get too heavy for this song. But there's something cool that I would specifically want to mention about this song, and it mostly pertains to the harmony being used and how it combines Western and Eastern influences together. If you listen to the beginning of the song, nothing sounds too out of ordinary except for the traditional Chinese instrument being played for the melody. But when we get in a little further, listen out to the piano. The movement that the piano is doing right there relates to the harmony that I'm talking about. Chords are being played, but it's not the usual way that we build them. See, most chords that we hear on the radio are built in what we call thirds, stacked on top of each other. This is the standard way we build chords and harmony in Western music. But in classical Chinese or Asian music, they don't have a history of using a whole bunch of harmony within their music. And when they did use harmony, it was usually the melody being doubled with octaves, or sometimes even just using perfect fourths or fifths instead of a complete harmonic movement from a Western sense. For a lot of the melody, they also took advantage of what I call the pentatonic scale, which is a 5-note scale that can be stacked in fifths or fourths. This is also somewhat of a legit cliche when it comes to a Western sense of, Western music implying Eastern music or Eastern classical music using the pentatonic scale. And this is where it starts to get a bit, interesting. McCoy Tyner, a very influential jazz pianist, experimented with building chords and movements off, intervals of the fourths instead of the regular Western harmony. So a regular D minor chord would sound like this, but using the McCoy Tyner way of building a chord, it might sound like this. This concept is called quartal harmony, since we're building up a note on every fourth space instead of the third.
They're all stacked perfect fourths, right? So we're always building up from the bottom. So we start on the root, C, F, B flat, 2 perfect fourths. And then we go to the second, same thing, perfect fourth, and then the fourth, perfect fourth, and then the fifth, same thing.
If you look at the pentatonic scale, it's a scale that's built off of fifths stacked on top of each other, really. But if you kind of reverse the order of where the notes are built off of, you get a quartal chord. The sound concept of quartal harmony and Eastern melody align together really well, which only serves to kind of like pseudo enhance the Eastern qualities of this track while still retaining mostly traditional Western concepts, especially in the other sections of the song. The way the different cultures intermingle within the already established energy of sonic music is beautiful and really enhances the stages and overall quality of Sonic Unleashed. If you want to hear more about different concepts mixed into music, check out my Bayonetta video or my last video. Thanks for your patience, and I hope you stick around to see the next one. Till next time.